Hey, what's going on? Axel here. Back for my fourth video, and today I'm going to do two things. First of all, running a little King's Forest right now. Getting started on my Caught in the Web flagging. I've run the other two quests, and now I'm on to the Unquiet Graves. But the main thing, and I'm just going to run on Epic Hard, is because I don't generally start running epically until I get up to cap. Anyways, what I wanted to talk about today was a topic that later today in the forums was being talked about a lot, and I chimed in and talked about it. And that topic is raid timer bypasses. Do we need to make a change? Should we make a change? Is the system as it's set up right now good for the game? And I'll start off and say that my opinion is probably a little different than most. I'll just be frank, I don't like raid timer bypasses. And when I say I don't like, it isn't that I don't use them, I just don't think they're healthy for the game. I think it was a mistake to implement them, and I hope they make some kind of change. You might ask, why is everyone talking about this right now? Or why was there a topic about it today? It's because with the new update, everyone's afraid that the new content is going to get worn out extremely fast. If you've been playing this game for a while and were around, I think bypasses were implemented around the time Caught in the Web came out. So if you were around pre-Menace of the Underdark, when cap was 20, you'll remember that we didn't have raid timer bypasses. You had to wait on the 3-day timer, and if your timer wasn't up, you couldn't run the raid. And was that a bad thing? No, it really wasn't, because at 20, what guilds would do is just run raid cycles, because at that time there were a lot of very good raids that were worth running. Right now, that's not really the case, but back then raid timer bypasses were not a big deal, because there were so many raids to run, so many good raids to run that had loot worth running for. And nowadays that's not so much the case, and maybe that's the reason why that the raid timers were implemented in the first place. I mean, the other is obviously because it would be a good way to make some money for Turbine. That's understandable. This is a business. DDO is a business first and foremost. If DDO is not making money, we don't have a game. But the question is, and my point is, that even though they might be good for Turbine's revenue, I think in the long run they're going to be a negative, because raid timer bypasses are bringing down the quality of the game, and specifically the quality of the in-game. Because what's happening right now, the same pattern that played out for Fall of Truth, the same pattern that was worked out for Deathworm, the same pattern that has worked its way into Fire and Thunder Peaks, is that people abuse these raid timer bypasses. What I believe the intent was for these raid timer bypasses was basically to solve the problem of raid timers not syncing up. Before we had bypasses, if you had a guildie that you wanted to run a raid with and they were on timer, you were screwed. But now with these bypasses, it didn't prevent people from running the content with their friends, and I think that's a good thing. But the problem comes in to people abusing them, and they're abused by people will just bypass the same raid 20 times in a day, like they're doing. A lot of people are doing right now for the new raid, Mark of Death. There's people who actually I don't even think we're not. Actually, today is 1 week now that the update's been out, because it came out last Monday. There's people I'm hearing talk on the forums that are already on their 100th completion. They've already run the raid 100 times. And what's going to happen, the reason why abusing bypasses is so dangerous, is people will just run the content hard for a few weeks and then it'll die. And no, not everybody is going to run the content hard for a few weeks and then abandon it completely, but even your average player might might run the raid twice in a day instead of once. So the content for them, the lifespan is effectively going to be halved. So what ends up happening is the content gets played out really quickly. Most people get what they want quickly if they really want to grind hard for it, and then just abandon it. And that's what's happened with Deathworming, Fire Piece, and well, Caught in the Web was different because that was abandoned more because they gave out the Raiders boxes, so there's no reason for anyone to run it. But that also happened for, what else did I say? Well, I don't know about Fall of Truth, but for all the new raids anyways, that's what's kind of worked out. So what the forum was talking about today, actually it was this evening, was should we put a limit on it, on how many bypasses you can use? It seems a little weird, but a bypass for a bypass. But should we put a limit on it, and how should we put a limit on it? And someone suggested that we put a limit of one use per day, which I think would be completely reasonable. I actually would prefer a little more than that, but again, I have an opinion that's different from most people. But I think that would be totally reasonable. If you could use only one bypass per day, it would effectively, well, for power gamers who are running this stuff, multiple times in a week, maybe 20, 30 times in a week, when it first comes out, it's going to dramatically increase the lifespan of the content for them and for the game as a whole. Bottom line is, I respect people's right to run the content when they want to, but I don't understand. I don't see a way that we're ever going to have a stable in-game and DDO again until they do something about the bypass problem, because people are just ramming through content way faster than the developer is going to be able to put it out. And it's a problem that I think it has to be addressed. Yeah, there will be some people upset about it, but I think it's a change that needs to be made and will be healthy for the game long term, both financially and just from a gameplay perspective for the community. Because we need this game to grow, we need the game to thrive. We at least need to stabilize the community and have a stable in-game, because that's what everyone wants. That's what everyone misses from when cap was 20. So if you're listening to this, I will provide a link below in the description to that thread, and you should chime in and give your thoughts. Well, that's all for today. Thanks for listening.